I'm Steve Wilkerson, and I'm with Jim Saunders, Executive Editor of the News Service of Florida. Jim, there's a lot of speculation around the Capitol about whether or not United States Senator, Democrat Bill Nelson will decide at the last minute or sometime to run against former Republican Governor Charlie Crist, now Democrat, for governor in a primary against then, whoever survives that, current incumbent Republican Governor Rick Scott. What's up?
Well, Bill Nelson's been really coy about this whole subject for months. I mean, he's saying no, he's not going to run, but he doesn't quite say no, so it's sort of like leaving people hanging a little bit. But we reported last week, and there's been subsequent reports as well, that his chief of staff has talked to some prominent Democrats and sort of said, you know, we're still thinking about this and, you know, still considering it, so keep your powder dry a little bit.
Well, hadn't the senator said on several occasions, no, I'm not going to run? Quit asking me this question?
Sort of. I mean, it's, you know, it's always just about to that definite, but never quite gets that definite. So, you know, there's a lot of issues involved or potential issues involved. A lot of Democrats are really worried that Charlie Crist is going to be their nominee and he's just going to get torn apart by the Republicans and Rick Scott because, I mean, he has a record that's a mile long. He was a former Republican, so he, you know, several years ago he was a Ronald Reagan Republican and a Jeb Bush Republican. Now he's a Democrat. So all that stuff's going to come out about him. You know, they're all going to be attacking him. Governor Scott and his campaign are going to have almost unlimited money to attack him. So there's Democrats that are worried that you know, former Governor Crist may become a weakened candidate, and they don't want to lose this opportunity to defeat Rick Scott. They don't like Rick Scott, but also they see him as vulnerable. So, you know, they really want to try to take him out, and they're worried that, you know, something could happen with Crist down the road that would make that difficult.
What would United States Senator Bill Nelson bring to the table in the eyes of those who might be flirting with him?
Well, you know, the Democratic Party in Florida has been pretty, let's face it, they have not been very successful over the last couple decades. But one person who has been successful over the past 2 decades has been Bill Nelson. He's been elected to the U.S. Senate 3 times. Before that, he was elected twice statewide as the insurance commissioner. So, you know, if you want a winner in Democratic politics in Florida, it has been Bill Nelson over the last literally almost 20 years. So I think a lot of them see him as a winner. You know, he's a very cautious kind of politician. He's not someone who puts himself way out there on issues. So, you know, I mean, he's got a long record. He would be attacked too, but he's probably a little harder target than Crist. The other thing is, you know, Crist faces a lot of criticism that he's not a true Democrat. There are Democrats out there who are saying that and are not happy with the idea of Charlie Crist being their nominee. Bill Nelson would not have to deal with that issue. He would be a true Democrat, and so a lot of the base would probably come in and support him.
Well, on the other hand, a lot of Obama's key people from 2008 and so forth are working for Crist.
Charlie Crist, you know, he sort of revived his political career in part by tying himself to Barack Obama. I mean, you know, he campaigned for the president last year. He made an appearance at the Democratic National Convention. He announced that he was registering as a Democrat at the White House with, you know, so, and he has brought in people who had worked on President Obama's very successful campaigns.
In Florida.
In Florida. You know, maybe the best known one in political circles in Florida is Steve Schale, who essentially ran the president's campaign in 2008 in Florida. He was very involved in 2012. Again, he's very well known, well respected. He's a Florida guy. He's not from outside, and he's working with Charlie Crist. So, you know, there's a lot of ties there with the former Governor Crist and the president.
Well, it appears likely that perhaps Thursday, Florida AT&T President Marshall Kreiser, currently, will be named Chancellor of the Board of Governors of the State University System. And he sent out a few signals about the direction he may take in this job. What do you make of this?
Well, one of the interesting things I think is that he brings, I mean, he is a business guy. I mean, he's the president of AT&T in Florida. He has been president of the Florida Chamber of Commerce, the Council of 100, which is a group that's very influential, sort of CEO level group in the state. And so he brings that business background. You compare that with Frank Brogan, who was who recently resigned as chancellor to take a job in Pennsylvania. And, Brogan was a career educator. I mean, he had while as lieutenant governor, but really his background was in education and pretty much all the jobs he had. So I think Kreiser would bring a very different approach. In Republican political circles, as well as, in business groups like the Chamber of Commerce, there's a ton of attention right now focused on trying to prepare students for careers and workforce development and those sorts of things. So I think that, Mr. Kreiser probably would bring that mindset to the job, which might change the focus of the universities to a certain extent.
There was a lot of discussion last week between the speaker and the president about actually getting with different industry and different industrial sectors and having them have a lot of input into the actual design of curriculum.
Yeah, there's that idea, and then there's also, the buzzword or buzz acronym, I guess it is STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math. They're trying to encourage those types of degrees to, try to prepare students for, sort of higher tech jobs or more skilled jobs, and which is, to a certain extent, could mean, lessening influence on, sort of liberal arts degrees that a lot of people have, that think is a major part of universities. So there's a lot of influence on those sorts of career-oriented programs.
Thank you, Jim. For more news about Florida politics and government, visit the Advances section of our website.